This all happened because of two reasons. Firstly, I love Buckshot Roulette. Secondly, I saw a dart blaster shotgun and it sparked an idea. I wanted to make a tabletop analog version of Buckshot Roulette. There have already been other versions of this game, like card game variations, but I wanted to actually have a shotgun, shells, and the experience of shooting a blaster at my friends. And I think I've got it all figured out. So strap in, this is a bit of a journey. First up, I needed to find a blaster, and the one I saw at the store was not what I needed. I had a few specific requirements. First, and most obviously, it had to use individual shells for the darts, so you could have some shells loaded and some unloaded. I also wanted it to have a functional pump action. A lot of this just doesn't work with something like a revolver-style dart blaster. Lastly, I wanted it to hold 8 shells total. This was the part I was the most concerned about in terms of viability. I'd seen plenty of dart blasters that use cartridges for individual rounds, but not many shotgun-style blasters that feed from a tube magazine, and almost none that hold 8 shells. Most of what I found capped out at 4 or 5. Sure enough though, there was one out there, on AliExpress. I didn't find any other examples that would work. It was really AliExpress or nothing. So I ordered it, waited about a month, and it finally arrived. And it worked amazingly. I mean, as far as dart blasters go, especially for the price, it's an absolute steal if you want something fun to shoot at targets. The pump action cycles smoothly, and the accessories are great too. If you opt for it, it comes with a red dot, a laser, and an adjustable stock. It's genuinely a fantastic blaster, and 10-year-old me would have absolutely loved this thing. With the shotgun itself out of the way, I knew I had to paint the shells and add a bit of wear and grime. I did a few passes of blue and red paint respectively, then very quick bursts of black, and then shook the shells around in the box I was using for painting them. The blaster also comes with one extra shell, so I have this yellow one as a backup if one gets lost. Next up was painting the blaster itself. It was already red, which I didn't totally mind, but there was one big problem. The magazine tube was slightly transparent, so you could actually see the shell order inside of it. To fix this, you need to remove the pump forend, or at least the grip portion of it. It's just a few screws. Once that's off, you can use masking tape on the rest of the gun and paint it so you can't see through it anymore. I was worried this might affect how the action cycles, but it ran completely fine afterwards. Just to be safe, I added a little bit of lubricant to the moving parts to make sure none of the added paint caused friction issues, but so far, it's been totally fine and the lube was probably unnecessary. After that, I added some black detailing around the rest of the blaster. I didn't want it to stay this super bright red, and I thought the black helped match the darker stylization of the game. Some areas turned out better than others, but overall, I'm happy with it. There are 2 issues with this blaster for this specific application, but both can be worked around. The first one is that doing a press check using the magnifying glass item, if you try to press check it the way you normally would on a real shotgun, you'll end up partially cycling the action. That means you don't pull the pump back far enough to eject the shell in the chamber, but you do pull it back far enough for the next shell to start feeding from the magazine tube, resulting in a double feed. The workaround is really simple though. Before you rack the pump for a press check, put your thumb into the loading port about a knuckle deep. That prevents the next shell from feeding and lets you safely check the chamber. There is a very small window where you can press check without double feeding it, but it's extremely tight. Early on, this slowed the game down a lot until we figured out the workaround. The second issue comes up when using the beer item on a live shell. If the blaster isn't lubricated, racking the pump with the live shell can sometimes cause the dart to partially separate from the shell. When that happens, the dart can get stuck in the barrel or partially detach and create an overlength round that won't eject properly. This can cause jams that require manually fishing everything out. To fix this, I used a small amount of dielectric grease. I applied it lightly to all of the live shells and then cycled them through the blaster a few times. Since doing that, I haven't had a single dart get stuck in the barrel, at least not in that fashion. There was one dart that didn't always come out of the shell. I ended up swapping darts and it's been fine ever since. I think I just got some grease on the dart foam piece itself, which caused it to get stuck in the shell. For items, I took screenshots of each item in game, removed the background, found a new background online, blurred that background, and added the item description. These pictures will be available in the description if you'd like to recreate the same things. They are 2.5 by 3.5 inches, 5 by 7 aspect ratio, the same size as a normal deck of playing cards. I used MPix to print them out and mail them to me, And when using that size option, you do have to specify in the checkout page that you don't want the corners rounded off, or make it so the images fit within the edges being trimmed. I got 48 total cards with the on-screen distribution you see now. This closely resembles the in-game default item pool. Once they arrived, I laminated the front and back pictures, and they're a perfect size. Ideally, for visibility, these wouldn't be laminated, but I wanted something that would last and have some sort of image on the back, so this was my solution. Some of the items don't really translate well unless you designate one person as a sort of game warden, and that slows down the pace a lot. It also excludes somebody from being able to play. For example, the burner phone requires someone to actually know the shell order. You would also need a game warden for the inverter, or just treat the next shell as the opposite of what it actually ends up being. Next was figuring out the RNG for game rounds: health, item count, live rounds, and blanks. I use dice, and for the most part it works. We're using 3d4s, white for item count, red for live rounds, and blue for blanks, and then a d6 for health. The d6 for health is the one that I'd change. I'd probably switch it to 2d3s instead, because 1 health rounds don't really work. When we roll that right now, we usually re-roll or just run a 2 health round. The last thing to figure out was a health indicator. My brother-in-law found these 3D printed health trackers, and they work great. We might add a little bit of nail polish to the arrow to make it more visible, but as is, they do exactly what they need to do. So with all that said, there are a lot of caveats. There's a lot I'd do differently, but I wanted to share this idea because I love this game and I think a lot of other people would love to try playing it in real life. When the cost of entry is about $25 or $30 for the blaster, a set of dice, and some cards, it's really accessible. You could even use a standard deck of cards for items and just track health with paper and pencil. I've had great experiences playing this and introducing it to people who wouldn't normally play something like Buckshot Roulette on PC. Presenting the whole thing in a physical, tangible way makes it approachable, and it creates an experience they wouldn't get otherwise. And for those of us who have played it, it's incredibly fun to teach. And honestly, what's more fun than pointing a blaster at your buddy, pulling the trigger, getting to see everybody's reactions? If you're at all interested in doing this yourself, I will be linking all the relevant items in the description.